Hi, this is Remembering the Past, the show where we talk about people who've died recently who've had a profound effect on our history, our society, or our culture. Tonight we're going to start out with Per Ingvar Branemark, who died recently at the age of 85. He was a Swedish orthopedic surgeon who made a momentous discovery that revolutionized dentistry, orthopedic, and plastic surgery as well. For years, scientists believed that no element could substitute for bone because ultimately it would not fuse with bone and the body would reject it. Some scientists had experimented with titanium, but it took Dr. Branemark in 1952 to experiment with rabbits. He had been working on bone healing, and he fused titanium with fractured rabbit bones and noticed that the bones grafted into the titanium, the bone's blood vessels and scar tissue fused to the titanium, the marrow grafted with the titanium, and the titanium and the bone could not be separated. When he saw how well it worked in rabbits, he tried it with volunteer human subjects, and he noticed that titanium was almost the perfect material to fuse with bone and allowed him to create essentially an artificial substitute for bone. He called his discovery osseointegration, the integration of titanium and bone, and it had especially important implications in dentistry, where the titanium implant was used to lock into the jawbone. The cells attached to the titanium surface, and you could essentially implant an artificial tooth instead of the older dentures. Osseointegration is also used to create artificial limbs, and indeed it's being used today. It's been especially important in facial reconstruction. Here's Dr. Branemark talking about the process of osseointegration.
If you treat the tissue very gently and carefully, then it is ready to accept. My name is Per Ingvar Branemark. During half a century, I've been trying to understand how titanium could collaborate with biological tissue. Titanium and bone and marrow unite. So the titanium functions as an anchor for an incorporated non-biologic component in the human body. Osseointegration can be applied to teeth in your head, but in all parts of the human skeleton. This procedure has been applied by many companies all over the world, and now there are a couple of million patients treated with very good long-term results. Quite a few of these patients who have lost a major part of their face, when they've got the anchorage, they feel that, well, I am acceptable, I can go out. We have a very small project in Brazil where we have a special hospital where the patients don't have to pay, where doctors from all over travel and participate in the treatment. I have a very special dedication to bring basic science in biology to improving the quality of life of human beings. Gothenburg has been a place where it was possible to have free thinking.
It would almost be a cliche to tell you that Dr. Branemark put up with a couple of decades of skepticism before his discovery became conventional treatment. I want to make a brief mention of Edward Herrmann, who died recently at the age of 71, and he was the tall patrician actor who was known as the History Channel guy, although he did a lot of other stuff also. He was in the TV series The Gilmore Girls and in the movie The Lost Boys, but he's best known for his dead-on impersonation of Franklin D. Roosevelt, which he did in television and on voiceovers and on the History Channel. I also saw him in 1975 at the Goodman Theater do The Cherry Orchard. Here's ABC Arizona TV on Edward Herrmann.
Edward Herrmann, the Emmy-winning actor best known for playing Lorelai's dad on Gilmore Girls and a law professor on The Practice, has died. He was 71. His manager released a statement saying Edward Herrmann, besides being an accomplished actor, was also a true gentleman and a scholar, as well as being an incredibly kind and decent man. He will be sorely missed. Herrmann was a successful actor whose career spanned more than 4 decades. His lengthy resume included roles in TV, film, on stage, and voiceover work as well.
Do you mind if we walk? I feel so awkward just standing here like this.
In television, Herrmann scored Emmy nods for his role as Franklin Roosevelt in the mid-70s Eleanor and Franklin made-for-TV movies. He also won an Emmy in 1999 for his role on The Practice, and is widely remembered for his 7 years as Richard Gilmore on Gilmore Girls. Herrmann found success on the big screen as well, including parts in Richie Rich, Lost Boys, and The Wolf of Wall Street. Herrmann's calming, pleasant tone extended to character voiceovers on a catalog of shows on PBS and the History Channel, most notably as FDR in Ken Burns' The Roosevelts, An Intimate History.
Edward Herrmann trivia question: what do he and Gary Cooper have in common? The answer is they both play Lou Gehrig. Gary Cooper in The Pride of the Yankees and Edward Herrmann in the TV movie A Love Story, the Eleanor and Lou Gehrig story. We're going to move on now to tonight's feature, Luise Rainer, who died recently at the age of 104. Luise Rainer was from an earlier age in Hollywood. She was a nice Jewish girl born in Dusseldorf, Germany, came to the United States. She was beautiful, she was brilliant, she was talented, and she was the first person to win 2 Academy Awards for Best Actor in consecutive years. It was later done by Spencer Tracy, then by Katharine Hepburn on the distaff side, and later by Tom Hanks, and Jason Robards won 2 Academy Awards for Best Supporting Actor. That's at least the story in the obituaries, but her career was far more interesting than that. Let's start with the AP on the death of Luise Rainer.
The actress Luise Rainer, who became the first winner of consecutive Oscars in the 1930s, died on Tuesday at the age of 104. Born in Germany, Rainer was named Best Actress in 1936 and 1937 for her performances in The Great Ziegfeld and The Good Earth, an achievement by only 4 other actors in Academy Awards history. A star of cinema's golden era, Rainer spent much of her life in London. After her career declined in the early 1940s, she was married twice.
Yeah, those are the bare bones, but the details are far more interesting than that. As I said, she was born in Germany to an upper middle class family that didn't want her to go into acting, but she was headstrong, she disobeyed her parents, and she became an instant hit in the German theater circle of the 20s, and you can understand why. She was gorgeous by the standards of the age then, and even by today's standards if you see her pictures, and she could really act. Her patron was the great Austrian stage director Max Reinhardt, and it was inevitable that she attracted the eye of Hollywood, who wanted her to come to Hollywood and be the next Greta Garbo, and she left for the United States. She didn't leave as an emigre against Nazism, although she later pulled her parents out because of that. She went to MGM and had a minor role in a William Powell movie, and William Powell said, "This girl is fantastic," and she gained a patron in MGM studio boss Irvin Thalberg, who often fought with Louis B. Mayer about the roles she was going to have. In any event, they gave her the role of Flo Ziegfeld's common-law wife in the 1936 movie The Great Ziegfeld opposite William Powell, where she won her first Academy Award. And she won it primarily for this scene, which is one of the great scenes in movie history. She's divorced from Flo Ziegfeld, and she reads in the newspaper that he's remarried. He's remarried Billy Burke, by the way, who was the Good Witch in The Wizard of Oz. And she gives an absolutely startling performance. She deserved it. She beat out Carole Lombard in My Man Godfrey, by the way, which was another wonderful performance. Here is the immortal Luise Rainer phone scene from the 1936 The Great Ziegfeld.
Here's your medicine, madame.
No, thank you, Mary. I'm tired of it.
But, madame...
No.
Perhaps you would like to go to Paris for a while now.
No, I'm too tired to go anywhere and to do anything. Mary. Look at the paper and tell me, where did they go on their honeymoon?
But they couldn't go anywhere, madame. Miss Burke is appearing in a play here. We saw her only 2 weeks ago. You insisted, madame. You remember?
Oui, I know. And we enjoyed it very much, too. She's a lovely actress, Mary. Oui,
madame.
She has such twinkling eyes and such a funny little twitter when she speaks. Yes, I can well imagine Flo being in love with her. Mary.
Oui, madame.
Call his office. I will congratulate him.
Oui, madame. Hello? Brian, 3093, please.
I should look. Oui,
madame.
Oh, yes, I should.
Mr. Ziegfeld, please. Miss Anna Hell speaking.
No, Mother. Hang up. I cannot speak with him today.
Mr. Ziegfeld? He's on the telephone, madame.
Yes. Hello, Flo. Yes, here's Anna. I'm so happy for you today. I could not help it calling you and congratulate you. Wonderful, Flo. Never better in my whole life. I'm so excited about my new plans. I'm going to Paris. Yes, for a few weeks, and then I can get back. And then I'm doing a new show, and oh, it's all so wonderful, and I'm so happy. Yes, and I hope you are happy too. Yes? Oh, I'm so glad for you, Flo. It sounds funny for ex-husband and ex-wife to tell each other how happy they are. Yes, Flo. Goodbye, Flo. Goodbye.
Mon pauvre petit. If you love him so much, why did you divorce him?
Because I thought it would bring him back to me. I was sure it would bring him back to me.
Yeah, Louis Mayer didn't want her to have that role, but Thalberg insisted on it. You know, I've talked about Elizabeth Taylor being the greatest combination of looks and acting in movie history, but if Luise Rainer's career was longer, it would have been her. The next year, again against Mayer's advice, Thalberg cast her opposite Paul Muni, who in my opinion was one of the greatest actors in movie history also, in the classic adaptation of Pearl Buck's story The Good Earth, where she plays Paul Muni's Chinese wife.
When I go back in that house, it will be with my son in my arms, and I'll show myself and my son to all of them.
There's a woman, not such a one as you, not as good as you.
But she's beautiful.
She's beautiful.
She won her second Academy Award for Best Actress for that, and you'd think she'd be a Hollywood superstar, but that's where things really get interesting because her life took a completely different turn. Professionally, her patron Irving Thalberg died, and she had to put up with Louis B. Mayer. Mayer didn't appreciate her acting ability. He wanted to put her in stupid roles. She thought Mayer was a Philistine. She thought Hollywood was a materialistic, shallow place, and she was pretty much right on all counts. But hey, you cross Louis B. Mayer in the late 30s at MGM when Irving Thalberg's not around anymore, you can pretty much kiss your career goodbye, and he said, "We made you and we can break you," and that's basically what he did. Of course, she countered by saying, "You didn't make me, God made me." She was an intellectual and she was smart. She didn't put up with his guff, so she walked out of her Hollywood career. All the while things weren't going well in her personal life, she married Clifford Odets, the famous playwright who was a sort of a doctrinaire lefty. Mayer didn't like him either, and Clifford Odets was sort of a jerk and he treated her badly. For her second Academy Award, she had to drive around the block a couple of times because she and Odets had just had a big fight. I think he was jealous of her success in Hollywood. I'll tell you another thing he was jealous of, and that was one of her friends. She was an intellectual, and one of her friends, and I don't know if it was just platonic, I'm not sure, was Albert Einstein. Einstein had fled Nazi Germany. He was at Princeton, and he and Luise Rainer got along pretty good. He had an eye for pretty girls his whole life. So here's Luise Rainer, two-time Academy Award winner. She made fewer than 10 movies in her career. A lot of people in Hollywood knew how talented she was, but she couldn't deal with all that materialism and that superficiality. So she couldn't move back to Europe because the war had just started. She brought her parents over. She dumped Odets, and she moved to New York City. She married a wealthy book publisher, and for the rest of her life she lived as a bon vivant and an intellectual. She knew all sorts of people besides Einstein, George Gershwin before he died, Bertolt Brecht, Tennessee Williams, Luciano Visconti. She knew Alexander Solzhenitsyn, wasn't crazy about him, thought he was a little self-absorbed. So she wasn't your typical Hollywood actress. She was much different. There's really nobody to compare it with today. I think she did have some regrets about leaving her film career when she did, but I think she saw the inevitability of it. She was one of those people who loved acting and was great at it, but she just couldn't stand Hollywood and the personalities. And she leaves us with those 2 Academy Awards and that famous phone scene in The Great Ziegfeld. And you know what? You could do worse than that. Well, I'm going to close on that note. I want to thank my producer and tech genius, Sid Tepps. And I'm going to close tonight with Buddy DeFranco, who died recently at the age of 91. He was a jazz clarinetist. He played for over 70 years. And he played with everybody from Gene Krupa to Charlie Barnett to Tommy Dorsey to George Shearing to Art Tatum and Art Blakey. His career encompassed everything from the swing era to bebop to the Tonight Show. And we'll close with him playing a little bit of one of my favorite songs, Tenderly.